Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So today I'm going to be talking about some geeky stuff, specifically movie trailers that have actually come out of Comic-Con this year in 2019. And secondly, a brand new surprising camera for all the creators out there. So let's go ahead and start with the movie trailers. Now, these movie trailers that I'm going to be talking about, you'll probably see it in the title, but they're specific to like sci-fi, fantasy, geeky stuff, okay? And so I'm going to talk about the ones that stood out and my overall thoughts. And in this case, I'm not going to be doing any type of trailer reaction because those will get copyrighted. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about them and go frame by frame, and hopefully these videos don't get a claim on them. But let's go ahead and start off with the first one, which is the Terminator Dark Fate. So this trailer is more about some behind the scenes, a little bit more about what this actual story is going to be about. So if you have not seen this trailer, Terminator Dark Fate, it's basically Sarah Connor is back. The Terminators are back. And there is a new storyline coming out of this. Now, whenever I saw the trailer for Terminator Dark Fate originally, honestly, I really wasn't that excited about it. Even though there are a lot of people attached to it. Tim Miller, the director of the original Deadpool, he's on there. Obviously, Linda Hamilton, as I just explained earlier. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And also James Cameron is tied to it in a way. He's kind of like the producer, co-writer. And, you know, that is interesting, especially the Linda Hamilton part, playing Sarah Connor. But other than that, you know, after so many, let's just say, bad Terminator movies, the last one being Terminator Genesis, I really don't think they could recapture even remotely close what they've done with Terminator 1 and especially Terminator 2. And just looking at this new trailer or behind the scenes, I mean, you know, my feelings are still the same. Do I think it's going to be a bad movie? I don't think it's going to be a bad movie, personally. I just think that when you're going up against Terminator 1 and especially Terminator 2, I just think it's going to be practically impossible to recapture that. And even if you're not recapturing it, you know, because James Cameron himself did so well, and James Cameron is just a master in so many ways. So if you remember, he directed Terminator 1, but Terminator 2 was actually better, in my opinion. And he did that with Alien as well when he did Aliens, even though he didn't direct the first movie. So he's one of the few directors that actually make the sequels, or could make the sequels, better than the first. And unfortunately, after Terminator 2, all the other ones, they're just kind of rehashes, you know. And in this case, they are trying to change things up, you know, as I've actually seen some leaks or like storyline plot leaks, and basically John Connor dies. And because of that, Linda Hamilton, she's on this basically rampage of revenge. She's going to hunt and kill all Terminators. And then we have this new actress who she's basically the new John Connor. You know, initially I thought maybe she's going to play like the Sarah Connor role where she's pregnant, and then that's going to be the new whatever John Connor, or maybe a female John Connor, whatever the case might be, but that's not the case. She's basically the new John Connor, and her, I don't remember her name in the movie. I think it's Grace. She's the new Protector, but she's also a little bit different because she's a hybrid, and so it's very similar to Terminator 4, okay? And so that's going to be another thing that I think a lot of people who've seen a lot of these Terminator movies, they're all pretty much the same. And the new Terminator, I can't remember his name. I'm not really familiar with him as an actor, but he's like a cross between the T-1000 and a T-800. And, you know, the initial effects, honestly, to me, they were okay to good. Don't get me wrong. They're not bad effects. But whenever I watched the 1991, I think that was the year of Terminator 2, it still holds up to this day. And in my opinion, still looks better than pretty much all the Terminator movies. I'm really not kidding. It was done so well. And it's very similar to me personally to Star Wars, where the originals, the effects were better than all this new CG stuff. And here's James Cameron talking about and hyping it up just like he did with all the other Terminators. And, you know, just looking through this, it's just more of the same in terms of, you know, instead of John Connor and Sarah Connor, it's going to be this new girl. And instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger being the Protector, it'd be her. But Arnold Schwarzenegger is obviously still going to be involved. And I've also heard from, you know, leaked scripts that it's not going to be Skynet. Not only is John Connor going to be gone, he'll be killed early on. But at the same time, Skynet will no longer exist, and a new AI called Legion will be the one to take over. And there's a new T800, T1000, and yeah, so not much new that is here. I mean, they do show some more clips of her fighting, some more of Linda Hamilton, some more shots of the effects with the Terminator. But overall, at least for me, it's just another Terminator rehash, in my opinion. Who knows how good it would be? Actually have to watch it first. But, kind of after seeing the trailer, and especially after hearing a lot about the script leaks, I really don't think it's going to fare much better than any of the previous Terminators. Hopefully it'll be better than Terminator Genesis, which I thought could have been great, but unfortunately it wasn't. It just rehashed elements of the first two Terminators. In this case, it looks to do the same. It's going to be a combination of Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, and they will be doing some future stuff as well. But yeah, that's Terminator Dark Fate. I'm not really excited to see it, but if it does come out on Netflix or something, then I'll definitely check it out, because I really, really did enjoy Terminator 1, and especially Terminator 2. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. But once again, just recapturing that, I think it's nearly impossible unless James Cameron himself came back and did it. That's probably the only way I think that it could ever get good again, And so here's some effects of, Arnold shooting this Terminator in the face, which is kind of reminiscent of the Terminator 2, when they were shooting him as well. Anyway, that's Terminator Dark Fate. So let's move on to two other trailers, which, man, Netflix is just destroying it. I watch a lot of Netflix, and I really feel Netflix and a lot of online programming services like Amazon, Hulu, HBO, they're just doing so much better than the big movie studios. Now, I'm not familiar really at all with The Witcher, and so I don't know much about the game. I just know a lot of people love it. The graphics are amazing, the adventure is great, and it was based upon a Polish book, very popular. And so the only thing I know about this is obviously it's based upon the book, and it has Henry Cavill as Geralt, who is the main character. He plays a Witcher, and as far as I understand it, the Witchers are like monster hunters with powers of their own, okay? And so this is really in the whole realm of fantasy, Lord of the Rings, and a lot of people are comparing this to the new Game of Thrones, not new Game of Thrones, but to Game of Thrones. And man, this looks really impressive to me. Okay, just looking at some of the shots with Henry Cavill, with his wig, the makeup and everything, he looks very similar to the video game character. And just look at some of these set pieces, man. I mean, they look sweet, really high production. You could tell that Netflix spent a lot of money on this. And this is kind of like a reoccurring theme that Netflix is really starting to pump a whole bunch of money. And they started a while back, for years. Netflix actually, I think, invested like over $20 billion overall years ago, getting all of this ready. If you remember Bright with Will Smith, that was probably at the time the most expensive Netflix movie. And then you've had so many other big time directors, writers, actors, and actresses star in these Netflix shows. So here it shows once again, the effects look really good. The sets look great. The costumes, I really like some of this medieval stuff, fantasy stuff, and I think they're doing a great job. As far as I know, I think her name is Yennefer or something like that. And the other young girl, I think her name is Cyrus. I don't really know. But yeah, I think Ciri. Yeah, I think that's what her name is. And so she, as I understand it, is also a Witcher, at least not yet. She's very powerful. And Yennefer is right here. She is a very powerful magician. Not magician, but she could do magic. I think that's what she does. And obviously here's Henry Cavill, who is, the Witcher. And so, yeah, look at this, man. And as far as I know, a lot of this was shot in Europe. Maybe even Poland, So here's some, quick shots of monsters. There's going to be a lot of monsters. And there's Henry Cavill with his eyes. I'm not sure why they're like that, but that probably has something to do. And dude, this guy is ripped. And so it looks like he's really going to be doing a lot of physical action and swordplay. As some of the interviews that I've seen with Henry Cavill, he really is a huge gamer. He does love The Witcher. and he wanted to keep it authentic. So he did a lot of his own stunts. So he actually learned how to use a sword, and he carried around like 3 different swords just so he could practice all the time. And we just keep going here. And yeah, this looks pretty sweet, man. Now, personally, I've never seen Game of Thrones, and so I don't really understand anything about that, you know, in terms of like why they make comparisons to it. My only guess is this is more for mature audiences, I would say. And so there's going to be a lot of violence. There's going to be a lot of sex. There's going to be a lot of intrigue and stuff like that. And I guess that's kind of what Game of Thrones is known for. Oh, there's those eyes again. So yeah, so something going on there. And I'm pretty sure this has a lot of meaning. I don't know if that's the Witcher symbol. I don't know. So yeah, so this is really talking about the worst monsters. I think that's a monster shot. Is people. They're the worst monsters. And I just think this looks really great, man. Just from a visual point of view, I really love what Netflix is doing. Whenever they put the money into properties that they think are very important, it shows. You know, it looks more like a movie than something you would see on a streaming service. And then here's the last scene where there's this spider monster. It looks pretty cool. And then this happens with, you know, Henry Cavill, where his eyes turn black. So I don't know if that's his magic or something. I don't know. But yeah, great way to end it. So I am looking forward to The Witcher. And since I don't really know hardly anything about this entire world, it'll be interesting, at least from my perspective, and a lot of people who might be coming into this for the first time on Netflix, to really understand what this is about. And if it captures, you know, a lot of attention and people really love this, especially if they're new to it, not gamers, not readers of the original book, then this really does have a shot of becoming extremely huge, especially for people who love Game of Thrones. So the last trailer that stuck out to me is The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. Wow. Ever since I saw the trailer for this, I was just blown away. And I remember watching Dark Crystal. It is also in one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember watching it as a kid. And Jim Henson, the puppetry, the fantasy elements, just so good, man. And here they're showing more behind the scenes. And oh, wow, man. Look at this. This is crazy. And I myself, I am not the biggest fan of CG in terms of overuse. And I just mentioned a little bit earlier, I think the original Star Wars are better than the new Star Wars with all their CG, because, man, it's, even though CG is getting so much better, especially with companies like Weta Digital, which I think did this as well. I think Weta Digital also did the effects for The Witcher as well. And Weta Digital are the people who did Lord of the Rings. Even though they are masters of it and it looks amazing, I still prefer practical real world elements. Because if you look at the Dark Crystal right now, the original from the 1983, I think that's when it came out, or 1984, and even the original Star Wars, they still hold up really well today because they're using real world elements. And then I'm just so happy that Netflix and Jim Henson's daughter, Lisa Henson, and the director, Louis Leterrier, all of them really focus on doing the original puppetry. And I think that's one thing that Netflix even wanted, you know, themselves, because originally they were trying for years to get a Dark Crystal movie made, but instead Netflix was able to convince Lisa Henson, and I'm pretty sure Lisa Henson would want to do it in puppetry anyway, but to, you know, really get the people to go towards a more series base. And I'm so glad that they are, because just look at this dude. This to me looks better than, I would say, the majority of movies out there, hands down. I don't care what the budget is. It looks incredible. And I can't wait to jump back into this world. And since I haven't seen it so long, I don't remember everything, you know. I don't even remember a lot of the actual names of the characters. But since it was such a very monumental movie, it did affect me a lot as a kid. I remember elements. So when I see it, I know what they are, but I don't. And so for me, having the nostalgia goggles in a really good way, I'll also be reintroduced to this world. And so, you know, I'm trying to wait and just not watch too many things, or even watch the original movie, because I just want to experience it like for the first time in a lot of ways. And for many people, this might be their very first experience. I think for a lot of people, this might be their very first experience with Dark Crystal. And I think a lot of people can experience the same things that I did, being young, and a lot of other people as well. And this is going to be one of those movies and series that really just sticks with you forever. And Simon Pegg, he's going to be doing the Chamberlain. And those creatures are scary, man. I can't even remember the name. And there's the director. Oh, wow, man. And so, like I said, I haven't watched it in a long time, but very similar to, you know, all the other top movies that I remember, fantasy movies. I already mentioned Star Wars, but also Legend with Tom Cruise. Very similar aesthetic, and that is another movie that is one of my top of all time. But Dark Crystal always held a very special place in my heart. And it's just one of those that just really takes you away. And I'm so thankful that this is coming out. And I'm even more thankful that it is coming out as a series versus a movie because, you know, there was so much in that world that you wanted to explore. And Dark Crystal Age of Resistance is actually a prequel. So you'll see where these creatures, I think, if I recall, they were the Skeksis, where they came from, why they're taking the essence, you know, from the crystal. And God, I can't believe I can't remember her name, but such a central character. I love it. And not her, I mean the other one. I can't remember her name, but the one-eyed creature. And she was actually voiced by Frank Oz, if I remember correctly. Her. What crap? I'm gonna have to go and see what her name is. Yeah, her. I love her. She's so crazy. There's the Mystic. Oh man, dude. I can't wait, dude. And the effects on here are mind-blowing. So they've melded both real-world elements with these effects. Yeah, this is going to be great. Look at this, man. And then the other creature, the Fizz Gigs, I think that's what they call them. I can't remember. Fizz Gigs, I think they are. Super adorable, man. So anyways, man, my top pick, in my opinion, that I want to watch this year, I don't care what medium that is on, movie, whatever, is going to be Dark Crystal. And thankfully, it'll be out on August 30th. I'm even more hyped up to see this than even Stranger Things 3 before it came out, or any other series. I really cannot wait till this comes out. And just to see where these characters came from, you know, the world that's behind it. And hopefully this series does really well, because I would love for this series to continue. And not only that, I just want to see more practical elements, man. I want to see more puppetry make a return from Lisa Henson or any other of these masters of puppetry. I really want to see a return to this. And so those are all the 3 trailers that I really wanted to talk about from Comic-Con. There was also Top Gun Maverick as well. Awesome as well. I really love Top Gun as well. But in terms of the whole sci-fi fantasy stuff, these are the 3. Netflix, once again, they're just killing the competition. I cannot wait to see what happens here. Okay, so speaking of surprises, this is a huge surprise for any creator out there, anybody in the whole camera world. And that was the surprise introduction of the Sony A7R IV, which is the follow-up to the extremely popular Sony A7 III. And this is something that I don't think anybody really was expecting, because even though the Sony A7 III is still a few years old, it is still one of the best full-frame cameras out there. The price has dropped, but now, you know, the A7R IV is here. And most people were expecting the release at some point of the A7S III, which is the successor to the popular A7S II. And their flagship is the A7 or A9, I'm sorry, which is their flagship camera. But now with the A7R IV, man, Sony is coming swinging. The first and most notable change, it now has a 61 megapixel full frame sensor, which I think is a first. Okay, I'm not going to go through all the specs. You can look through it yourself. But bottom line, for people who are photographers, this is going to be absolutely insane. And the thing is, when it comes to image quality, Sony is one of the best, if not the best, in the whole camera world at this size. Because a lot of the cameras that you buy, whether they're from Nikon or Panasonic, or many of your smartphones, the sensors are actually made by Sony. They're actually Sony sensors. And so now you're getting it from the source. And that's the biggest thing. I think this is really meant for photographers first. And they even mention that many times. The A7R IV is meant for photographers. And so this is a photo camera first and foremost. And it gives you a lot of features that I think a lot of photographers would love. Not only do you get this extremely high resolution, but you also get this pixel shift, which will allow you to stitch together a picture that I think is like over 240 megs, which is insane. And also, even when you crop it, you can get APS-C cropping, and it'll be 26.2 megs, which is still great for anybody out there. That's a lot of resolution. But the whole next part of what Sony is really well known for and praised for is their absolutely insane autofocus. And now with this new enhanced autofocus, not only will you get a full readout in terms of the whole APS-C sensor right here, the whole autofocus coverage, but you're also going to get this new eye tracking autofocus that was, I think, released on the A6400 through an upgrade, and animal and people autofocus. But at the same time, this tracking will also now be available in video. And so not only did Sony pretty much have the best autofocus, I think now it's going to be even better than Canon's dual autofocus. And a lot of people would say it was already better before. But now with this new, real-time tracking, boy, if you love autofocus, which is the one thing that I absolutely hate about my Panasonic, I love everything else, but the Panasonic cameras, they can't even hold a candle to the autofocus that's available here. Advanced, it's quick, it's reliable, can't wait. And so this is going to be huge for a lot of people, especially if you are a action photographer. You're going to love this, Now, when it comes to the video, okay, so once again, this is a more photo-centric. As far as I can tell, the features of this is very similar videos-wise to the previous A7R IV, meaning it's good. I mean, to great, but for people who are serious about video, this is probably not going to be the camera for them. So a few things that the specs have on this is the 4K resolution. The max it's going to be is 30 frames per second. And it's not going to have Vlog built in. It's going to be using their S-Log and I think HLG. And at the same time, it's 8-bit, and not 10-bit. So that's a big thing for people who are serious about video. And that's one thing that Panasonic still provides, especially with their recent Panasonic S1 and S1R, where you can get 4K. And then now with their Vlog update, you're able to get 10-bit at 422. And so a lot of video features there. But, the one thing that Sony has, and they've always had, and they still are dominant, as I just mentioned, is their autofocus. And so I think for a lot of creators out there, especially if you want really high quality photography, but also high quality video, for people like myself who are YouTube content creators or even just pros, I don't think they will be missing, even though it doesn't have all the video features. I think for a lot of people, this will be more than enough. And a lot of people use the Sony A7R, who are actually creators. So this is one of the top cameras out there. Now, other things that they've done, they've really improved the build quality. So it's more weather sealed. The flaps are a lot better. From the previous A7R III, the flaps were just not great. They're cheap in a lot of ways, and they just got in your way. This one, looks like it's more solid, more sealed, and also now that with the dual SD card slots, now that both can support the faster SD, I think UHS 2, and at the same time, they've changed the slot position. The one is now on top and 2 is on the bottom, and also the grip, which I think a lot of people complain about because of the fact that, Sony is trying to keep the camera small, so the grip wasn't deep enough, but now it is. It has a very deep grip. And everything about this camera, and from the first impression that I've seen, this is going to dominate, in my opinion. Very similar to the A7R III, but probably even more so with everything that they provided. And for me personally, I would love to have a Sony A7R IV, but at least right now, it's not in my price range. But not only that, for me, I really want that flip out screen. That's, a lot of people will say, oh, that's not a big deal. And a lot of pros don't use a flip out screen. They'll have a external screen, external monitor, like a Ninja or something, Atmos Ninja. But for me, I really love having the flip out screen, and that's something that Panasonic still does really well. Although it's not in their S1 and SR, but it will be the S1H model. And so this is definitely beyond just like people who are brand new or even YouTubers. So this is for a higher level. Okay. Now, obviously a lot of YouTubers do use this as well, but it's more for people who are not just starting out. Okay. So, anyway, I think if you can get this, it's worth it. For me, if Sony were to release one with a flip out screen, oh man, I would be in a Sony camp, man. I know that's really trivial for some people, but that's about the only thing keeping me away from the Sony camp, because I want this autofocus. That's the one thing I really hate a lot about my Panasonic, man. But and everything else, man, this has more than what I need. And so this is gonna be awesome for anybody out there. And so I really feel that whenever Sony releases their A7S III, it will have better video features, which is what they were known for anyway. And so that's something that is really exciting, man. This is a pleasant surprise for a lot of people out there, not only in the whole camera world, but just in the whole creator world in general. And now your choices of which camera to choose as a creator just got a lot harder, you know. But I think for a lot of people, the Sony A7R IV is going to be their first choice. And so those are all the things that I wanted to talk about today and kind of geek out over. First is all the new trailers, the trailers that I really wanted to talk about from Comic-Con. And secondly is this beast, the Sony A7R IV. So if you had any thoughts on anything that I talked about today, be sure to leave them in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators Group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.